Hey, what's up guys? Brian Kelly here from Zombie Guitar. So I just wanted to do this video here today as a follow-up to the last video I made, which was called 35 guitar scales that you might like. So in that video I talked about 5 primary scales, each of which have 7 modes. 7 times 5 is 35, so those are the 35 scales that I talked about. Now, I didn't expect that video to get a ton of views, and it didn't get a ton of views. It's not a super hot topic. It's not like a hot topic like the pentatonic scale or the cage system or modes, you know, in the guitar theory world. Those are like the hot topics. Anyway, whatever. I made that video. I wanted to have it in my repertoire. I wanted to talk about some obscure scales and stuff like that, but I didn't give any examples. Now, people in the questions, in the comments, they were like, hey, you know, when am I going to use this stuff? What do I need this stuff for? What order should I learn these scales in? Do I need to learn all these scales? When do you see this stuff ever come up in popular music? So on and so forth, you know? So that's what I want to talk about here in this video today. So just to clarify, you're probably not going to use most of that stuff most of the time. I'm not going to say that you're never going to use it, and I'll show you how to today in this video. But the majority of what you really kind of need to focus on is just the diatonic scale. That's the first 7 scales of the 35. That's the major scale and its 7 modes. That's going to cover the bulk of what you're ever going to use. Now, if you decide to get into jazz, or if you happen to already be a jazz player yourself, then yeah, you're probably going to use modes of the melodic minor scale and modes of the double harmonic minor scale and stuff like that, you know? But if you're not a jazz player, you're just a mainstream musician, you like rock, you like classic rock, you know, blues, stuff like that, the major scale and then the modes of the major scale, that's pretty much all you're going to be using most of the time, you know? Anyway, just to get that out of the way, you do see this stuff come up some of the time. And the main things that you're going to really see these obscure scales come up in is melody lines. So sometimes, you know, you're going to be using the diatonic scale for most of the melody lines. That's what most of the melody lines that you hear are, just the diatonic scale. But every once in a while, people will throw in like an obscure scale and it just kind of, I don't know, just spices up the melody line. So let me just give you a couple examples. So the first one is going to be Yesterday by the Beatles. This song is in the key of F. So this starts out, yesterday, and then it goes to this. All my troubles seem so far away. So right there, that's an obscure scale. I didn't figure this out myself. This was pointed out to me by my vocal coach, and I didn't take vocal lessons for very long, and I suck at singing. But when I was playing in a band, you know, our manager was like, hey, you should probably take some vocal lessons and do some backup vocals so you don't suck so much at singing, you know? So I took a couple vocal lessons, and this is one of the things he pointed out to me. He's like, oh, yeah, this obscure scale is used in Yesterday. It's pretty neat. I'm like, oh, and I never forgot that, you know? These are like little things I learned throughout my life that I never forget. So you could actually say that this is the harmonic major scale. You know, starting on the note A right here, and then it uses a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flat 6. It's not a major scale. That's the major scale, but a harmonic major scale is just the major scale with a flattened 6. All right, so you could say it's the harmonic major scale that he's using right there. You could also say that it's the 5th mode of the melodic minor scale that he's using right there. The 5th mode of the melodic minor scale is the Lydian flat 6 scale. It's just using the first 6 notes in the song Yesterday, so you don't actually know which one it is. It could be the harmonic major scale. It could be the Lydian flat 6 scale. So Lydian flat 6 again. Flat 7. You know, so it could be one of those two. So since this little run in the melody line only uses the first 6 notes of this scale, you can't really say for sure which one it is. But what you can say for sure is that it uses 2 out-of-key notes. This song is in the key of F, and this little run that he does right here uses 2 out-of-key notes. So it starts out on an A, it then goes to a B. There's no B in the key of F. F is the key that has 1 flat. It's a B flat in the key of F, you know, so the note B is not in the key of F, and then it goes to the note C sharp. There's no C sharp in the key of F, there's a C in the key of F, you know, and then there's a D and an E and an F, so. So, why did he choose to use that particular set of notes right there? I don't know, but it sounds really cool, So that's an example of how you might just kind of throw in one of these obscure scales. It doesn't have to be the whole song written in this obscure scale context or whatever. The song's in the key of F, but just like a little harmonic major run or a Mixolydian flat 6 run, whatever you want to call it. Just very subtle, but it kind of spices things up a little bit. So that's the first example. So the second example is the Simpsons theme song. So this uses the Lydian dominant scale, which is the fourth mode of the melodic minor scale. So up until about 5 years ago, I had always thought that this was just the regular Lydian scale or the regular Lydian mode. The fourth mode of the major scale, the Lydian mode. I don't remember exactly how it went down, but I was in some kind of discussion group on a Facebook group in the music theory, whatever, and some kind of argument came up. Not a major argument, just a minor nerd argument. I find myself in a lot of minor nerd arguments a lot. Maybe that tells you something. Maybe I'm a nerd. I don't know. But anyway, I was like, well, actually, the Simpsons theme song is in the Lydian mode. And he's like, well, actually, it's in the Lydian dominant mode. And I looked it up, and he was right. It's the Lydian dominant mode. So, I never forgot that. I surrendered. I said, you're right, buddy. My bad, But ever since then, I was like, well, now I know that. Now I know that the Lydian dominant scale is the scale that was used for the Simpsons theme song. Anyway, so it's C Lydian dominant. So here you go. Here's the Lydian. It's the major scale with a sharp 4, right? It's got that sharp 4 there. So that's the Lydian so far. But the difference between the Lydian scale and the Lydian dominant scale is that the Lydian dominant scale has a flat 7, whereas the regular Lydian scale does not have a flat 7. So here's your Lydian scale. Here's your Lydian dominant scale. So it's that note that comes right before the root, right before the 1. If it's the regular Lydian mode, it's just 1/2 step below the 1. If it's the Lydian dominant scale, it's a whole step below the 1. So this is why it's Lydian dominant. It's got that note right there, 1 whole step below the root. So that's why it's Lydian dominant. Anyway, that's a pretty cool example. The song, it's very catchy. A lot of people know it. It sounds kind of like, I don't know, like a little dreamy, I guess. That's what the Lydian scale, the Lydian mode is associated with. But it's not just your regular major scale mode. It's not just the Lydian scale. It's this Lydian dominant scale, fourth mode of the melodic minor scale. So I always like that example as well. All right, so this third example is just to show you how you might use one of these scales to just write your own song or write your own melody line or even just a little piece of a song. It doesn't have to be a full song. So I always like the sound of Lydian, so I decided to just choose one of these obscure scales, one of the Lydian variations, So for this, I went with the fourth mode of the harmonic major scale, which is called the Lydian flat 3 scale. So Lydian is the major scale with a sharpened 4, but then you flatten third as well. So instead of starting on this C down here, 3rd fret of the A string, I'm just going to start up here, 10th fret of the D string. So here's your Lydian flat 3. You have a 1, 2, flat 3, just like a minor scale, just like your natural minor scale. Then you have a sharpened 4. 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 1. So that's my scale right there. So I just came up with a little melody line that uses that scale, and it goes something like this. Something like that, and then I just put some chords to it as well, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But you can easily come up with the chords that harmonize with any of these scales. You can just kind of look and say, all right, well, what's the first chord? So you have a 1, you have a flat 3, so it's going to be some kind of a minor chord. It's going to either be a minor chord or maybe a diminished chord if it has a flattened 5 in there. So it just has a 5. So 1, flat 3, 5. That's just a C minor chord, right? So the first chord I used was a C minor chord. All right, and I did something like I started a half step below the C. I slid up to the C. Why did I start a half step below the C? That's because this scale that I used has a 7 in it. It doesn't have a flat 7, it has a 7. A 7 is always a half step below the 1. So and then the second chord I used was a D major chord. So why did I use a D major chord? That's contained right in the scale as well. So the second note in the scale is the note D. And then from there, you have a major third. That's one of the notes of the scale. And then you also have a fifth of the note D. All right, so there's a D major chord contained right in the scale as well. So you have a C minor chord, you have a D major chord. So the rhythm section that I put to this was so C minor, D major. All of these notes are found right in that scale. So those, you can always find like the chords that are going to harmonize with your scale just by looking at the notes that are contained in the scale and then making chords out of that. That's how this stuff works. So check it out. This is what it sounds like. So that's just a few examples of how you might use these more obscure scales. All right. So as I said, most of the time, unless you're an advanced jazz player, most of the time you're probably just going to be sticking to the diatonic scale, which is the major scale in all of its modes. That's going to be the stuff that you mostly use. That's the stuff that most of the people are talking about all the time. But you do see this stuff coming up from time to time, I don't know, play around with it, have fun with it, just pick one of these scales, pick one of these random 35 scales and just start noodling around, make a little melody line with it. Then look at what chords you can create by using the notes that are found in these scales if you want to write your own music and stuff like that. So anyway, that's going to be that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. See you next time.